like we did, right? I was speaking
because
to friends all over the
so it's a bit like the internet again. Another analogy. When they first started, and by the way, it's an English invention, computers. Going back to Charles Babbage. When the government initiated mainframe computing, and they soon realised that weren't the way to do it, because anything that's centralised will fail, right? And that's how the internet come about, right? And then the networks of independence, right, of these systems. So if one went down, another one's still there and controlling, right? So it's really important to emphasise that, and that's why the high streets were so important. Let me just get this, because you've touched on it, and there's something else that I've talked about, reverse engineering, to look at the law, right? Going back through our history, you can see what these people have done, right? And it is all structured to destroy England and the common law system, right, which give you the greatest amount of freedom. One of those things, and it's about farmers. What else have they done structurally? Not just so you've got the supermarket system, but part of that system is they then impose their regulations and laws on farmers. And they restrict farming and the way that we've always operated, a bit like, so there'll be people watching this now that will understand what I'm saying. You've been a bus driver or a coach driver or a lorry driver for 30 years, and then all of a sudden some idiot says you need a certificate of professional competence, and you say, listen, I've been driving this wagon for 30 years, and now you tell me, after no accidents, never hurting anyone, never injuring myself, now I need a certificate of professional competence.
And the person who's telling you that was university trained.
University trained.
Probably never done a day on the job.
No.
And there lies the problem, and we're seeing this with the farming community. So you've got people like, my great-great-granddad and so forth, going back through the generations. They were people that from birth knew the job, right? So no one could tell them how to bring up cows or breed pigs or look after sheep, because they knew. They didn't need anyone to go. They didn't need to go to college. For me, I went to university, and no sooner did I finish university for agriculture, literally just down the road, I came to the conclusion that was a waste of fucking time. There was nothing they taught me that I didn't already know, or that I knew better than the instructors who were teaching me. And I wasn't the only child there who was getting that education. So, but what I do think, out of all of this, of the farming side, what worries me more than anything is with the destruction of farming comes the death of the knowledge. Right? And that's important.
Agreed.
That's important, that you've got to have the death of the knowledge. Because if you look at people who can bake,
well, that's one of the reasons. So again, I don't want to interrupt your thought process, because this is really important. That's what one of the things that Tony Blair did. He removed traditional apprenticeships, right? And the reason he did that was to destroy the trade knowledge that was passed down from son to boy, right? And through that system, it made tradesmen independent of the state. So when you go and look at a plumber, a bricklayer, a roofer, a tiler, whatever the trade is, they can go and earn a living, and they didn't go to university, right? Go and have a look at any. So one of the things that's really important for people to understand is the university system and the state system of education currently set up is a communist system. The reason why they extended, that's why you get all these nonsense degrees now, is because they didn't
science.
They didn't create employment, which is so it's the government's job to create the environment for job creations, not to create the jobs themselves, right? And especially not. So what they did was they took these kids out of school at 16 and 18 because there was no jobs for them, because they'd already destroyed the economy, they'd already destroyed the way that England was operating. They needed nonsense degrees, right? The only real degrees out there are engineering degrees, farming degrees to some extent, where they're teaching you about the soil and the way it operates, etc. But you don't have to teach someone how to operate a fucking tractor, right? Or how to get produce from A to B, because they know how to do that, right? So the important thing is for people to realise that this is all part of the same system, and core to that system in destroying what you just said is knowledge, right? So again, the regulations and everything that they've brought in, can you sort of try and explain that to people? Because I don't think people realise the depth of it.
Okay, well let's look at the one what's really easy, and let's look at bird flu, right? So we know as a farming community it's bullshit, absolute bollocks. There's nothing at all that is one bird in 20 million
So
will
what they
die.
do with foot and mouth.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Blue tongue as well.
Yeah.
Blue tongue, I remember Grandad would say, you know, well the cows get a cold. They sneeze and now they put them down.
Yeah.
Well, it's like saying, well, if you sneeze, we're going to put you down.
Yeah.
You know? So what they did was to bring in these quarantine rules. And to get people to buy into it, what they do is they go, oh, we'll incentivise a farmer to make that call. So let's say someone like, I don't know, Bernard Matthews. They get to the 12th of December when they know they're not going to sell any more turkeys, and they get an outbreak.
Oh,
right. They call in DEFRA. DEFRA says, oh, absolutely, you've definitely got it.
And they claim on the insurance.
Claim on the insurance. That DEFRA will pay them out, and they'll wipe out 150,000 birds in one go, removing the problem for Bernard Matthews. Right? Now, if the nearest farm to that is 20 miles away, and you need an excuse for that farm to get it, you haven't got one, right? You haven't got one. It don't matter what you do, you can't get that bird flu onto that farm, right? Without people questioning it. So this year what they did, or tail end of last year, was brought in the fact that everyone has to register their birds at home. Right? So how do you get it from that farm to that farm? Oh, well, we know this person's got chickens, and then that person, and that person, and that person, these 50 people along the way. Now we've got 20 miles down the road, we know how it got here. What it did was did that. So they've all got to be cold as well as this lot now.
So the registration of them chickens is like them creating a waypoint effect all the way to the other farm.
Did I say that? Maybe I did. And exactly the same. So that's the basic one, because most people can think, oh well, I've got 5 or 6 chickens in the garden, you know, and I ain't freaking register them, right? The reason they want you to register them, do I think they're going to find anybody?
It's because they're going to get. It gives them an excuse.
It gives them the excuse to get to this other farm. Now, if I name Bernard Matthews as an example, or any other big organisation that's in the food production, right? If they lose 170,000 birds in one hit, does it affect their bottom line? No. Even if they only get back the money the birds cost, they've got their money back, right? What does that do to the value of the meat? It puts the value of the meat on their other farms up. Right?
Supply and demand.
But when you've got little Joe Bloggs over here who's only got 30 chickens, and DEFRA turn up and kill them and says, well, you know, your 30 chickens have got to go, and there's £200 for your chickens. The £200 is neither in nor there. I wanted me 30 bloody chickens, right? So what they've achieved is allowing the people to get scared of what's out there, which is nothing. You know, it's a bit like kids being told to be scared of the dark. You know, when you're kids, you don't go out there because it's dark, but right? My mum used to send me out in the dark. You get out there. Your eyes will adjust. And that's where we are now. Those of us what have looked above the parapet, our eyes have adjusted to what's actually going on. And we've got the rest of the people still sitting there in the dark going, oh, dare I go out there? So, and you're coming back to what you're saying about the apprenticeship side. We've seen, I know this is going slightly off key, but we've seen that over the last 10 years especially, you've got kids what would have left school at 16, let's say, either went and got a job or went home, right? And mum and dad would eventually get them out the door to go and get a job, right? What we've now ended up with is, I'm not allowed to work till I'm 18, right? So all of those kids what have then gone to college to learn a bloody bullshit degree, which takes them not only to 18, that's just to get them out of college. Now they've been told to go and get a degree. So you now end up until they're 21, 22, 23, getting these degrees. My nephew, the most qualified person I've ever known. That qualified, he can't even get a job in McDonald's. They won't give him a job.
He can't learn a living.
He's not only got a master's, he's got a bachelor's, he's got everything else. I feel for him because he's come out in thousands of pounds worth of debt after going to uni. For what?
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where... And so what they ended up doing was, as the economy was being destroyed, people haven't necessarily realised, because you haven't got thousands of kids sitting on street corners.
Can I just want to say this here, because it is important, right? In reference to the British Union system, the people in Scotland don't pay for university degrees. There is no debt. It is only the English that pay for that.
Wow.
The same as in Scotland. Don't forget, Scotland is a socialist country. In Scotland, they don't have to pay for their prescriptions. The English do, right? So, and again, this is not me having a go at the Scots. This is me just making sure people understand that. So again, it's an attack on the English, because your nephew's come out massively in debt when a Scot hasn't. And they're in a socialist system, and all sitting there saying how lovely it is and how rovey it is. Well, it is, because it's the English economy paying for it.
So would I be right then, based on that, with the assumption that